here for 99 cents a month or over at Subscribestar. I did get a mailbox address now, link in the description. If you send something, let me know. Drop me an email or tell me in the comments when you mail it so I can go down there and pick it up. Comics, cigars, whiskey, whatever is legal. So, a mild critique of the filth, perversions, and degeneracy at modern Disney got an age restriction for the Catholic League's documentary. You can check them out on YouTube. They are growing very quickly after this article. So the video doesn't even mention globalists or lizard people at all. It just talks about Disney's evolution into globo propaganda, how far left toxic activists have taken over the company, and how no counterpoint was tolerated. Disney went all into grooming kids and never looked back. Hey, believe it or not, Disney used to be a family friendly company. That was a few decades ago. They know that most parents are tuned out. They're brainwashed into social compliance of the soy slop and sports ball bread and circuses. And on a related note, people are talking about that, oh, Disney lost some subs and they're dipping a little bit with some financial issues. And while I wish that narrative was fully accurate, I think it's more complicated than that. If you look at the chart of Disney acquiring Lucasfilms in 2009, their profits have been on a slow, steady climb upward. And then the Wu Flu hit. It started. I mean, it didn't. It didn't just hit it like it was a slow evolution. It was like a. It was almost like a movie. Like they. Oh, never mind. YouTube doesn't want you talking about some things. That it was anything other than I don't know whatever the approved YouTube theory is. Now it's funny, like with that issue, people on Facebook and YouTube were coming out with they were saying where they think the where it nucleated from, right? And they were getting like kicked off the platform for saying that. And then a year later they go, oh, they were actually right. Oh, that's interesting. I mean, wouldn't it be better just to have free speech and let the chips fall, let people make it their own decisions? No, no, no. We need to absolutely control the narrative. Yeah, that's weird. Anyway, so and there's what's that issue, and then the stuff that happened in 2020 and is going to happen in 2024. If you like in 2016, you could say Hillary. You say, oh, Hillary was actually the one, but in 2020 you couldn't say anything. It's like, oh, that's weird. That must be nice to have that absolute control of a narrative like that. Anyway, so the Wu Flu started in 2019, and I took it seriously for like 3 months. I washed my hands a few more times, and I always carried a mask around in my pocket, but that was about it. So everything that had people who had to physically get together is going to take a big financial hit because people don't want to what was that movie with Dustin Hoffman or something? God, where they're sitting in a theater. That was a great movie. I actually saw that in the theater. Someone coughs and you see the particles travel around the theater, and people are like, "Yeah, we're after the Wu-Flu people." There's a lot of people who are never going to go sit back in the theater ever again. The thing is, everything in 2019 started to take a big hit, but it also looks like Disney is set to bounce back. The argument is that people who dropped Disney did it overseas because Disney lost a sporting license to cricket, which it's some kind of complicated game. If I had to guess, they're probably right. People are not sheep exactly, but they're not terminally online and in the culture war like we are. If you're listening to this channel, if you're on YouTube and you're in the segment of Comicsgate Phantom Menace, I don't know whatever you call this. It's not exactly on the right. It's just people who are not on the far left. But it's why change on the right or left is so slow, because overcoming inertia is the issue for both sides. This other article was that Rihanna is singing for the Super Bowl, and you look at people and go like, oh, or the boomers watching the Super Bowl. It seems like a younger and younger crowd is dipping out of it, and you're like, yeah, there's really no way you could support the Super Bowl or anyone in it, the teams, the members, or the entertainment that comes along with it. It's like, if you support that, then I mean, if you financially supporting them, then you're on board with it. It's at some point you just got to go, oh, I guess like these things are over. As a lot of us have come to that conclusion with all sports. It's like the sport is just a machine. It's Disney, ABC, ESPN, but it's not even that. It's like they're all owned by these people who are very much on this narrative. The thing is, a lot of people are just not thinking too deeply about Disney. But I also think that things are getting to a tipping point, and I think you will see the Western audience start to dip from Disney because the BLT stuff is just too much for a lot of people. A lot of the big screen movies are bombing, but then they go to Disney Plus streaming and they seem to do better, either because maybe expectations are lower for Disney Plus, or people just, I think, play stuff in the background while they're surfing on a tablet. They're like, they paid the $15 for Disney. They just put the stuff on, and I don't know. On a small screen, maybe they're more generous when watching it. Another argument I think is like, there's no way that, like, big screen or small screen, watch it at home, whatever. There's no way that Disney Star Wars, like, there's nothing you can do. There's no edit that is going to make Disney Star Wars a good trilogy. So another argument I hear from the soy boys who stalk bounding into comics is that why do we even care? Just let people enjoy the degeneracy. Except they never feel that way about the things that they get worked up about. They're the first to protest. But this hands-off libertarian level of thinking led us down this lubed-up, slippery slope to children dancing around on stage at strip clubs while men throw money. It's simple. Groups that advocate to advance their own interests will do better than groups that just allow other people to control the narrative and the society. It's absolutely critical to draw attention to the filth at corporations like Disney. It's like everyone's entitled to an opinion, right? So that includes people who are not so happy with what Disney is doing. People draw attention to people. Draw attention to the people behind the scenes. Yes, obviously you don't have to watch it or pay for it, but you have the right to explain to other people what Disney is pushing because, politics being downstream from culture, being downstream from the censorship of big tech, like what big tech allows and what these big tech NGOs or media companies are pushing. It's like, well, they're all working together to push a certain narrative, and it just gets worse and worse until people start not only just speaking up against the Hollywood, but also about the censorship and from the social media companies and the mainstream media, clear bias that's making all this kind of stuff possible. So then, when a group comes out and does exactly that and makes the movie Disenchanted Kingdom, Google's YouTube puts an age restriction on it because both Google and Disney are on the same page in that regard. They're pushing this stuff on kids. YouTube has a long, disgusting history of allowing weird, prurient BDSM stuff, showing those under the age of consent on those channels. Kids and adults were in cosplay, but the kids were usually tied up, and the stuff was up for years. I remember that story first broke several years ago, and I went and I saw the videos they were talking about, and you're like, how is this allowed on YouTube? They had kids, like, I remember one was like Spider-Man, and some woman was dressed up as a princess or something from some Disney princess, and you had little kids like who were duct taped to tables and duct taped to a wall, and they had to go free them. It's like, it was disturbing. You would think like anyone working at Google would be like, oh my god, ban these channels, or give them a warning, say, hey, listen, what are you? No, I mean, you gotta. I think I would say ban them. Like, there's no way you can show a kid tied up. That's insane. And that's on a kid's channel. That stuff was on there for years before enough people raised issues about this and said, this is deeply, deeply disturbing. What's wrong with you people? And then it's like Netflix cuties. You see the people who defend it and like, oh, you're going on the list, friend. Anyway, so similar stuff happened at YouTube with Yoel Roth and the Trust and Safety Board that didn't seem to actually do anything for kids to protect kids. They allowed abuse of those who are under the age of consent, but immediately banned people if they're on the right for any little infraction. There's a film called Dead Name that was banned off the video platform Vimeo, I think, which is, I guess, bigger in Europe. It dealt with this current phenomenon of kids thinking that they're something they're not, and how the parents are dealing with it. And I think it was slaves built this country. No, I think the Irish, the English, the German, the French built the country. Anyway, so the point is that these big tech NGOs are in absolute control of the narrative. They rule the country. They were never elected, and the government doesn't seem to want to enforce free speech on them. So we have to balance the narrative. Yes, I value individual liberty over $1 trillion industry. Absolutely. Social media should be guaranteed free speech zones de jure. It's way past time to have free speech online and to be protected from being fired, debanked, denied any services from these billion-dollar industries because of your opinions. They should have passed laws protecting us a decade ago, but they still haven't. Look at the video yesterday. Patreon telling EVS that they're controlling his Twitter platform because he spoke out against Disney grooming kids. Let me be clear. All legal speech should be allowed on YouTube, Patreon, etc. You should not be fired or denied banking, credit card, or financial services because of legal speech or opinions online. And our parasitical government won't do anything unless we talk about it. If you don't hold their feet metaphorically to the flames, they will just continue to send money to your taxpayer dollars. Some of it's going overseas. A lot of it's going in their pockets. Nancy Pelosi's not worth $150 million through by not breaching her fiduciary duty of due care to we the people. The left can teach the right a lot about political activism. By all means, study the Frankfurt School and Saul Alinsky. They bitch about things all the time. It's the only thing that works, the squeaky wheel. They've been pushing this window so far into Sodom and Gomorrah because the right has been sitting back and watching the sports ball and sucking down the soy slop. Now we have kids taking hormones and removing body parts, all because we just wanted to grill, man. If we have free speech online, if we couldn't be debanked, then I suspect that the narrative would shift, but we don't, and the big tech puppet masters want it that way, and so do our politicians, both parties, Democrats and Republicans. If you think that the right wing in Washington supports free speech, or at the state level either, you have not been paying attention. Both DeSantis and Trump passed bills restricting free speech. The fans of those guys don't seem to actually follow their activities, and Trump even went further. He seemed to not know what the First, the Second, the Fourth, and the Fifth Amendment were all about. We're just going to go in and take those liberty devices. So that's the Second Amendment, and then that's the Fourth Amendment, unreasonable searches and seizures, and then that's the Fifth Amendment due process. You really should be familiar with those things if you're the president. It's the Bill of Rights. You don't have to know the first articles and the articles of the Constitution about selecting senators and how old they have to be in their terms of service, and that stuff's actually not important. But the Bill of Rights, and it's really only like 7 or 8 out of the 10 that are critically important. It's really not that many. It's weird that you're not familiar with the first that first 10 Bill of Rights, and we're just not going to bother. We're just going to go in and take them. That's not what the country's all about. And to say that kind of stuff, you really don't know your base, do you? And that's, apparently Trump did not know his base, because he mentioned every other group in America except for you. And he pandered to every other group and gave money to every other group, your taxpayer money to every other group. Didn't do anything for his base, which is weird. It's Ann Coulter is the only one that I remember that was correct about her prediction of him getting elected, and then also held his feet to the fire the whole time he was in office. She's like, so where's that wall, Trump? Where's that wall, buddy? Aren't you gonna pull us out of foreign wars? No, puppet masters don't want us out of foreign wars. Oh, that's weird. I mean, you said a lot of things before you got elected. It's I know there's Trump fans out there still. I know. And I'm not saying it's he's still the best option out of a bunch of bad options, but it's better to be honest and say, yeah, why do we have to pick the best of the worst? We have a lot of DeSantis and Trump are not good options. I know there's fans of those guys, but they're not good options. And I mean, the same thing for the left. If you're on the left, it's your left wing options. It's someone said it online. It's the governments of the world, the puppet masters. It's they know that the people are on this verge of changing their governments, so they're accelerating control as much as possible. Anyway, so the right wing doesn't want you to have free speech either. They want control, and if they can use big tech, as a symbiotic proxy to control and censor you, they absolutely will. You don't see the right wing fighting for free speech. In fact, you don't see the right wing doing a whole lot of anything other than slowly moving to the left. Anyway, comment, subscribe. You can check out the post office box, or not a post office box, it's a business address, a mailing address. 4460 Redwood Highway, Suite 16-302, San Rafael, California, 94903. Or join the subscribe star. Thanks to everyone who joined up over there, and I will see you guys all next episode.